Hi everyone, and welcome to video 4 of our 5-part video series. Here today we'll talk about some things that may be blocking you from losing weight. These are really common and we may not be aware of them. And now this is also including your thyroid. Now just before we do though, I just wanted to let you know that the doors to Empowered Women's Health will be opening tomorrow, Friday the 8th of August, and I can't wait to show you what I've designed to help you get good health and to keep it that way. I'll give you more info in tomorrow's video, which we are doing on gut health, so stay tuned for that one. Now let's focus on weight loss and your thyroid. Now these mistakes are easy to make and will make it really difficult for you to lose weight. And as we now know, much of weight loss begins in our mind first. We need to get our thinking right before we can sustain our efforts and our weight. Mistake number 1 is relying on your willpower. Now when we start a new diet, we learn which foods to eat and which foods to avoid. Then we just assume that our willpower will be there to keep us on track when we grab our plate and start heading down that buffet line. But in reality, however, this won't work for long, and it turns out that willpower is not a loyal friend. It has gaps, huge gaps. It entirely leaves the room just when we need it. And this is called the willpower gap. So what is willpower, first of all? Willpower is actually a thing. Now this was a huge discovery. Until recently, scientists weren't even sure that willpower existed, but it does. It's like a battery inside us, and when we want to do something or we want not to do something, it can be called on to see us through. However, if the battery is depleted already, we won't be able to find the power, and typically when that happens, we unconsciously convince ourselves that we didn't really want to do that thing anyway, or we rationalize that we deserve to indulge in this one-time temptation. And in those moments, we have just fallen prey to the willpower gap. So what depletes our willpower? Things like resisting temptations, persevering on tasks, monitoring performance, making decisions, regulating our thoughts or emotional responses. All these decisions we make during the day, and the trouble is that nearly half of all these things every day, so there's no way to ensure that our willpower will be fully charged when we need it most. Now our blood sugar rules our willpower, and our willpower doesn't perform properly when our blood sugar is low. The seat of willpower in the brain absolutely requires blood sugar for fuel, and any dip below average levels will handicap its functioning. It's so ironic, right? And when our blood sugar has dropped and we need to get something to eat, the very physiology of our state at that moment makes it all the more unlikely that we will make a wise choice. Combine this with the constant availability of highly sweetened processed foods and the difficulty of finding anything fresh when you're on the go, that is, then the willpower gap helps to explain the current global obesity pandemic that we now face. Mistake number 2 is underestimating the addictive power of processed foods. How do they make cocaine? They take the essence of the cocoa leaf and change it and purify it into white powder. Cocoa leaves are not hugely addictive on their own, but chewing on one will create some numbness in the cheek, followed by a mild 45-minute lift, somewhat akin to drinking a cup of coffee. But in its change form, cocaine powder is highly addictive. How do they make sugar? Well, you guessed it, they take the essence of the sugarcane plant and purify it into another white powder. Now, if you're like most people, the foods that cause you cravings are not in their original out-of-the-ground form, are they? Odds are that you crave foods made from changed processed foods, manufactured by the food industry. And they're not really foods anymore, but rather they're like edible food-like substances. Now, foods that are in their whole, unadulterated state interact in the brain the way nature intended. In contrast, edible non-food-like substances made out of sugar release an unnatural state of dopamine, and that hijacks the pleasure centers in our brain. And addictive foods fall into 2 categories. Firstly, sugar products like lollies and chocolate and ice cream and cake, soft drink and biscuits. And secondly, products like pizza, pasta, bread, savoury biscuits and chips. There are others too, as you know. It's no coincidence though that as processed foods in our food supply have increased, obesity rates have soared too. In fact, today I think 80% of 600,000 foods available on the supermarket shelves are laced with added sugar. For example, savoury biscuits are loaded with sugar, but we don't really think of that because they're savoury. Now, know that addiction isn't for everyone. The unfair truth is that not everyone is prone to addictive properties of these edible food-like substances. This makes sense if you think about it. We know that alcohol is addictive, but plenty of people can have a drink here and there, even every day, and never develop alcoholism. Caffeine is addictive, but some people can have a coffee or tea when they want, a pick-me-up, or sometimes, and they don't get hooked. Some people can smoke cigarettes or cigars once in a while and never develop the habit. But these are very few. So mistake number 3 is we build in exceptions. Most people think that if they have permission to go off their diet once in a while, it will make the whole endeavour of losing weight a lot easier. And most weight loss programs cater to this belief by making these exceptions into the very structure of their food plan. Perhaps they allow for a cheat meal once a week or maybe even a whole cheat day. But the irony is that building in exceptions do not work. It's supposed to make it easier to stick with the diet, but for most people it makes it harder. It keeps your taste buds from learning to prefer real whole food. It keeps your brain from making the changes, the permanent changes required for sustainable shift in behaviour and identity. And it keeps you hooked on those edible food-like substances. You only need it once a week to stay hooked. Some people can have exceptions, but most people it just makes things harder. These built-in exceptions are effective for some people, as I said before, but the people who are on the not susceptible end of the spectrum to food addiction, when they have a craving for a specific food and then they indulge in it, the craving goes away. They eat one serving and no more. Then they go right back to their sensible way of eating and are completely satisfied, often for days. The rest of us, which is most of us, watch them do this and naturally expect that indulging in exceptions will work for us too. But it may not. Chances are it won't. So what category do you fall into? So how are you susceptible to food addiction, or are you not? These are the things we need to ask ourselves. The fact that our society doesn't recognise this is a huge barrier to the success of millions of people who are trying to lose weight. By and large, people don't push cigarettes on non-smokers or alcohol on people who say, no thanks, I don't drink. Imagine a world in which when someone says, no thank you, I don't eat sugar, the host says, oh good for you, instead of, but it's Sarah's birthday, one piece of cake won't hurt you. So that's a little on our mental process for losing weight. How about actually physical blocks to lose weight? How about these? Now one in particular is low thyroid. And this can be low for you even if your doctor has told you it's normal. Now I want to emphasize this point. Sounds a bit far-fetched, but truth is our medical system is just not testing us correctly and getting the full picture of our thyroid. Now there are reasons for this, but I won't go through them here. There are 2 types of thyroid conditions which we're commonly confused by, or we are commonly confused by. They are functional and autoimmune thyroid disorders. And it's important to know these have different drivers or reasons for presenting to us. So what is autoimmune type thyroid? This just means that the immune system has turned on itself and it's formed autoimmunity on our thyroid. So the immune system is attacking and damaging the thyroid gland itself. For women, low thyroid is the most common, although high thyroid does happen too. So the most common low thyroid is Hashimoto's, which can go on to damage other parts of our body if it's not treated. Hashimoto's causes people to feel really unwell, generally unwell. Remember, your body is completely linked, so any damage will flow on to the rest of your body and mine too. Excuse me. So does medication help this, you may ask? Your doctor will want to put you on thyroid medication if this is the case to repress these thyroid conditions via your immune system. However, know that this medication does not treat the cause of the problem. Medication is absolutely necessary if someone has their thyroid removed. So there are certain instances. However, in the case of autoimmune thyroid, it's the immune system that needs to be calmed. And in some cases, this will be all that you need to reverse an autoimmune thyroid, such as Hashimoto's. Although the medical system will not support this thinking. So how do you calm the internal rage of autoimmunity? If you have a severe leaky gut, where your autoimmunity is being powered along by an actual leaking gut, then in many cases this would be our first point of call to heal leaky gut, which it calms your autoimmunity. This then slows down, or it can even stop the damage on your thyroid. This isn't easy, however it is possible when we go about finding the reasons why your gut has been damaged. This could be due to ongoing food intolerances and also just functional type thyroid. This is where someone doesn't have any thyroid diagnosis. It's not autoimmunity, and the thyroid gland itself is okay. It hasn't been damaged. However, the thyroid is not making enough hormone, or the body is not using that hormone properly. It's common that these people also experience a feeling of poor health and can't work out why. And frustratingly for these people, they're told their results are normal, or they are told it's all in their head. And to go home and have this told, it can be really frustrating not to get answers. The thyroid can be the problem, and it is making them feel unwell, but their tests are showing that it's normal. So never accept the normal reading if you suspect it's your thyroid. Go on to ask your doctor for more extensive testing, which includes the whole thyroid panel. And you can also use functional medicine testing if your doctor won't cooperate. So for those who are not truly hypothyroid and labs are normal, but they show hypothyroid symptoms, it's usually a gut issue causing the inflammation, and that inflammation causes the hypothyroid-like symptoms. Thus, healing the gut fixes these symptoms. Hands down, the most common reason people flounder with thyroid issues is because they are focusing on the symptoms of the thyroid and not the cause, which is the gut. So top symptoms of hypothyroidism are fatigue, increased sensitivity, cold hands and cold feet, constipation, dry skin, weight gain, puffy face or dry facial skin, elevated cholesterol, pain or stiffness in the joints, swelling, heavy periods, thinning hair, depressed mood, anxiety or poor memory. Now there's heaps more other signs, but these are the most common ones. How to make your thyroid more balanced? Now essentially you need to do a combination of things. Firstly, you should eliminate gluten from your diet. Now you've heard this heaps of times, but gluten is a huge cause of thyroid disorders and autoimmunity problems. Selenium is essential to healthy thyroid. And the first thing I recommend for those with autoimmune thyroiditis or Hashimoto's is get about 200 mcg of selenium a day. Wild caught fish like salmon, omega-3 fatty acids, this is what's got in the fish, which are essential for your optimal thyroid function. And if you don't eat fish frequently, you can supplement with a high quality omega-3 supplement. Now, I had a question the other day about if the salmon you get in Queensland, which is where we live, is okay because it's not wild caught. Now, it is farmed. Wild anything is always better. So look for the brightest coloured salmon possible. And this means that it's been swimming harder, which is good. And the freshest, most reputable seller. The benefit of eating fish outweighs the benefits of not eating it usually. I'd also go to a fishmonger rather than a big supermarket for your fish. Another thing for your thyroid is get plenty of sun to optimize your vitamin D levels and make sure your gut health is good, because no matter how much sun you get, if you're not able to make vitamin D, this happens via our gut, then your D levels will be low. Herbs that support thyroid function include ashwagandha. and other adrenal adaptogens, which you can ask me about in the comments section. And have bitter greens: dandelion, greens, rocket, spinach, kale, Swiss chard, collard greens. These are all really good. And use organic coconut oil in your cooking. It's great for high heat cooking and sautéing many different meats and vegetables. Filter your drinking water from chlorine and fluoride. These are harmful chemicals which suppress the thyroid and block iodine. And find daily ways to detox. Other ways to help your body detoxify from chemical exposures, plastics, petrochemicals, pesticides and mercury include taking Epsom salt baths and adding chlorella, parsley or cilantro to your daily smoothie. You also drink heaps of filtered water. And work on lowering your stress levels through whatever you believe in. Example, daily gratitude, prayer, meditation, yoga, and deep belly breathing, which we talked about in the first video on adrenal fatigue. Know that environmental toxins may be poisoning your thyroid. Many of these have the potential to impact thyroid function, and some of these factors include phytoestrogens found in soy-based foods and GMO foods, pesticides, herbicides on the food that you don't buy organic. Industrial chemicals have been shown to reduce T4 levels, which are your thyroid levels, and are neurotoxic. Now, an example of this is Roundup. Plastics and resins for coating food cans, and as dental sealants too. So keep your home free from these and your body as much as possible. Go entirely natural. And if you work in a mine, be aware of heavy metal toxicity from the dust, which affects your thyroid health. I recommend you get a heavy metal test and detox these over a supervised amount of time. So get these blood tests for your thyroid routinely. Routinely, your doctor will only initially test for TSH. This is the reason why many women go undiagnosed, as this test alone will often come back really normal, even though there's a thyroid problem. So ask your doctor to do a thyroid lab testing, including, well, TSH, which they'll do, but you also need to ask for free T3 and free T4. The results from these combined will then tell you if you need to get the rest of the thyroid panel. Now you can ask me about this in the comments section underneath this video. We also need to take note of the ranges your doctor is using. Orthodox medicine uses very broad result ranges, so if you come back as normal, it doesn't necessarily mean that your readings are in optimal range for your health. So I hope this has helped you a little on weight loss and your thyroid. The topic of thyroid is complicated and huge, and there are many different factors for you to examine. And I can help you with these over time. Now, the main thing to remember is that it is possible to have a normal TSH, which is the main thyroid test, even though your thyroid and therefore your health is struggling. So any questions about this, please just pop them in the comments below this video and I'll answer each and every one of them. And until then, I'll see you in the next video tomorrow, where we'll talk about gut health and also some more info on empowered women's health and how it can help you. Bye for now.